Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a conversation with Bill Gates.
Yeah, the one from the Jay Shetty podcast. We've sort of pulled out some key bits.
Exactly. We want to really understand his thinking now on, his early days, family, Steve Jobs.
Philanthropy, AI, education. It covers a lot of ground.
It really does.
Mm.
And our mission basically is to distill the main insights, the aha moments, for you, our listeners.
Get right to the core of his reflections, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how his views seem to have evolved.
Definitely. It's not like a fixed snapshot, more like a reassessment as he goes.
Mm-hmm. You get a sense what's important to him now.
So let's jump back to those early Microsoft days. He calls his focus monomaniacal.
Yeah, just completely absorbed, living and breathing it.
He talked about skipping weekends, vacations, but he loved it. It wasn't like a sacrifice for him.
Which is kind of hard to grasp, that level of intensity.
Yeah.
But it fueled the whole thing.
And that intense focus, back when personal computing was just starting, that must have been crucial.
Oh, absolutely. It let him dive deep into the technical problems, build the foundation.
Right, iterating constantly.
At that stage, maybe that narrow, deep focus was exactly what was needed. Not trying to do everything.
Makes you think, doesn't it? About focus in our own work. Could that kind of dedication unlock something?
It's a good question. He also mentioned how the big vision a computer on every desk was initially, well,
Laughed at, basically.
Hmm.
Somewhat ridiculed, he said.
wild to think about now. And he brought up that quote,
Oh yeah, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year.
and underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
I sort of wonders if they overestimated or underestimated themselves.
Especially when others thought their vision was just unrealistic, despite Moore's law and chip improvements.
Well, it wasn't just Moore's law they were banking on, was it?
No. What else?
They seemed to anticipate the whole software ecosystem growing, the network effects.
Ah, right. As more people got PCs, it became more valuable for everyone.
Exactly. So the vision, while ambitious, had this underlying logic about tech and market trends. It's amazing how those huge goals can actually happen over time. Okay, shifting gears a bit. His parents.
Mm-hmm. A massive influence. He mentions they accepted him being different.
How did that play out? I mean, beyond just accepting it.
Well, there's that story about the 200-page report he wrote on Delaware.
Yeah. He said it embarrassed him later.
But it shows that intense focus again, right? Even if maybe not socially appropriate at the time.
Huh, probably not.
But instead of trying to squash that intensity, they tried to understand it, which led to therapy.
And he looks back on that therapy now and calls it brilliant. That's quite something.
It really is. It seems like it helped him grasp why his parents had certain rules or expectations.
That it wasn't just arbitrary, that it came from like a place of support.
Exactly. And maybe helped him navigate social stuff better, see beyond just his own world, build some self-awareness.
He also talks quite a bit about his mother, her high expectations.
Yeah, and things like table manners, making him talk to adults. Stuff he didn't appreciate then.
But later saw how it broadened his perspective beyond just code and computers.
For sure. It wasn't just about academics with her. It was social, ethical development, too.
He sounds genuinely sad that she didn't get to see the full impact of her pushing him to give back.
Yeah, that value seems deeply rooted, thanks to her. And his father's influence was different, but also key.
The calm and thoughtful one, helping with early Microsoft challenges.
Right, like that story about the customer who wouldn't pay. His dad's calm advice was crucial in a stressful startup moment.
Having that experienced level head around, invaluable, I imagine.
Definitely.
Okay, let's talk Steve Jobs. The narrative is always rivalry, rivalry, rivalry.
Yeah, but Gates points out they actually collaborated early on. Microsoft made software for Apple.
For the Apple II, right? People forget that part.
Totally. Microsoft software was pretty important for Apple's early success. It wasn't always adversarial.
There was a time it benefited both of them, trying to grow the whole market.
Mm-hmm. And Gates admired Jobs' strengths, didn't he?
Yeah, the design genius, the user interface focus. He contrasted it with his own engineering approach.
He used that analogy. What was it? GM versus Mercedes.
That's it. We were the General Motors and he was Mercedes. What do you take from that?
It really nails their different strategies, I think. Microsoft going for mass market volume.
Like GM, accessible to everyone.
And Apple, under Jobs, focused on that premium design, the experience.
Like Mercedes, a different target market, recognizing those distinct niches.
Yeah, and acknowledging each other's strengths, even as competitors.
He also mentioned talking more philosophically later, especially when Jobs was sick.
Right. And finding common ground, surprisingly, on education.
Their shared disappointment that computers hadn't really revolutionized schools like they'd hoped.
It's pretty striking, isn't it? These two giants, competitors, finding that shared concern about tech societal impact.
It shows there was more to it than just business rivalry. Gates insists they had a fantastic relationship, despite everything.
Which leads kind of naturally into philanthropy, doesn't it? That sense of broader impact.
It does. He said moving into philanthropy was driven by realizing the insane amount of wealth he had.
That word insane is telling. It reflects
Mhm.
this growing awareness, maybe even discomfort
Mm.
among the super wealthy about, extreme wealth itself.
And this strong feeling it should be given back effectively, not just passed down through generations.
Which led to things like the Giving Pledge.
Right. And this idea of tackling global problems with the same kind of innovative thinking you'd use in a startup.
Exactly. Applying that problem-solving energy, looking for scalable solutions, not just traditional charity.
He mentioned talking to Bernie Sanders about it.
Yeah, which is an interesting contrast in viewpoints, obviously.
Sanders, not exactly a fan of the billionaire class.
No. But Gates argues you can, and maybe should, allow that kind of innovation and wealth creation.
But with a very strong expectation of giving back significantly.
Right. He references Warren Buffett, Andrew Carnegie's Gospel of Wealth,
Hmm?
this idea of an obligation that comes with success.
It's that core tension, isn't it? How do we balance incentivizing innovation with addressing inequality or societal needs?
It's a huge ongoing debate.
Switching to more current issues, he talked about meeting with Trump.
To argue for funding for things like HIV medicine, polio eradication.
And he framed it in terms of the moral purpose of the U.S. to lead on those global health issues.
Trying to find common ground beyond the political fray, focusing on that humanitarian aspect.
But he also expressed real concern about political polarization today.
And the threat to democracy, especially with AI coming into the mix.
That's a bit sobering, hearing that from someone who's been so central to the tech revolution itself.
It really is. He predicts AI policy will become a major focus in presidential debates.
Which makes sense. We're just starting to grapple with what AI means for society, jobs, information.
Absolutely. And the policy challenges are immense. How do you regulate something moving so fast?
He also touched on that tough balance between free speech and misinformation.
Especially with vaccines during the pandemic. A really difficult line to walk.
How do you allow open debate but stop harmful lies from spreading, especially when they have real-world health consequences?
It's incredibly complex. And AI might just make it harder, amplifying misinformation potentially.
But he's not totally pessimistic about AI, is he?
No, not at all. He sees huge potential too, especially in education and healthcare.
Right, particularly for underserved areas. Personalized learning, better diagnostics.
The potential to bring high-quality services to places that lack them. That connects back to his foundation's goals.
Seeing AI as a tool that, if used right, could really help tackle those global inequities.
Developed ethically and deployed thoughtfully, yeah.
Getting a bit more personal, he reflected on his own past, hiding insecurities.
Yeah, by trying to always be the smartest person in the room.
That takes some self-awareness to admit, especially publicly.
It really shows how much he feels he's changed, realizing that early management style may be a bit abrasive.
His tough love approach, he called it.
Wasn't always the best way. And learning to value different kinds of intelligence.
Not just the purely technical or analytical kind.
Right. Working at Microsoft, and especially the Foundation, seemed to force him to appreciate a broader range of skills and perspectives.
Dealing with complex global health problems probably requires more than just brilliant coding.
You'd think so. It points to real personal growth. He also mentioned the importance of setting aside time just to think.
His think weeks.
Yeah, carving out that space for deep reading and reflection, even when running Microsoft.
How valuable must that have been to step away from the day-to-day grind?
Crucial, probably, for seeing the bigger picture, navigating major shifts in technology or strategy.
He recommended a book too, Pinker's Better Angels of Our Nature.
Suggests he's still thinking about those big picture questions of progress in society.
And finally, he talked about the golden rule.
Yeah, his personal take on it. He used that thought experiment.
About being born but not knowing who you'll be rich, poor, what country, etc.
How would you want society structured then? It really grounds the golden rule. Treat others as you'd want to be treated in a very practical, empathetic way.
Makes it universal, doesn't it? Beyond any specific doctrine.
A fundamental ethical guidepost.
So, wrapping up for our listeners, for you, the learner, what are the big takeaways here?
Well, that early, almost obsessive focus Gates had shows the power of really diving deep into something you're passionate about.
And the huge role his parents played accepting him, but also setting high bars. That foundation was key.
Definitely. Then there's the relationship with jobs competition, yes, but also respect, collaboration, even shared goals sometimes. It's complex.
And his shift to philanthropy, applying that same innovative drive to massive global problems. The responsibility he feels.
And maybe most importantly, his own ongoing learning and self-reflection. Growth doesn't stop, even for someone like him.
Think about some of those specifics, too. That 200-page report focus or overkill. What did therapy really unlock?
How did that GM versus Mercedes dynamic actually play out? What does it mean when a tech leader worries about tech's impact?
And how does his version of the golden rule land in today's world? Lots to chew on.
Indeed.
And here's a final thought for you. Gates mentioned the wealth metric being an easy way to measure impact. What if we could develop other powerful metrics?
Metrics for service, creativity,
Mm.
positive social change.
Yeah. Could we create and celebrate something like a service list that carries real weight, shifting our focus?
That's a provocative question,
Yeah.
a different way to define success.
So this has just been a snapshot, really. We definitely encourage you to check out the full interview, his writings.
Yeah, dig deeper. See how his journey, his ideas might connect with your own life, your own questions.
What has this deep dive sparked for you?